Hi guys, let us go through one more podcast, and today I want to talk to you about Adolf Hitler. See, often in our Indian history, one of the most important characters in world history is Hitler. Adolf Hitler was the Führer, the head of the state of the Nazi state from 1933 to 1945. एक तरीके से देखें तो अडोल्फ हिटलर की वजह से ही पूरा वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 हुआ था, बट दैट्स व्हाट मेनी हिस्टोरियंस डू से. बट हम एज ए हिस्टोरियन मैं मानता हूँ कि हिटलर इज़ बेसिकली अ रिजल्ट ऑफ अ लॉट ऑफ रॉन्ग्स विच वर डन इन वर्ल्ड वॉर 1. ना देखते हैं वेरी क्विक टाइमलाइन ऑफ अडोल्फ हिटलर. 20th अप्रैल 1889 को हिटलर की पैदाइश हुई थी. हिटलर वॉज बॉर्न इन अपर ऑस्ट्रियन बॉर्डर ब्रानाउ एम इन बल्कि एक विलेज में. उनके फादर अलोइस हिटलर वॉज टैक्स कलेक्टर इन ऑस्ट्रियन स्टेट, एंड बाय 1908 आफ्टर हिज फादर्स डेथ, अलोइस हिटलर के मौत के बाद अडोल्फ हिटलर मूव टू वियना. शुरू में ये काफ़ी गरीब थे. हिटलर के पास ज़्यादा ज़मीन जायदाद या पापा का भी बड़े रिच नहीं थे. वॉज जस्ट मिडिल क्लास का ही. हिटलर लिव्ड इन अ होमलेस शेल्टर, सो रोड पे सोते थे. ही स्क्वांडर्ड थोड़ा इनहेरिटेंस जो उनको प्रॉपर्टी मिला था वो सब उन्होंने खर्च कर दिया. ही वेस्टेड ऑल दैट मनी. ही वॉज लिविंग इन वियना. ही वॉज एक्चुअली डूइंग पेंटिंग्स. स्ट्रीट पे पेंटिंग्स करके वो पेंटिंग्स बेचते थे हिटलर. बाय 1913 Hitler moved to Munich in Germany, and एक ही साल में after first year of movement of Adolf Hitler into Munich, World War I started, and World War I was one of the most important events of this period. 1914 में World War I start हो गया था. जैसे World War I start हुआ, Hitler enlisted himself in the World War I Austrian army, and he played a very important role in the front line. He was basically front line messenger. तो जो from one post to other post information ले जाते थे. He was one of those guys. He used to take information from one place to other place and deliver that information. 1918, final days of World War, Belgium. Adolf Hitler got partially blinded because of mustard gas attack, and when he was in the hospital in Ypres, Belgium, on the 11th of November, Germany surrendered. World War I ended. पर हिटलर का इस पे बहुत बुरा इम्पैक्ट हुआ ना. हिटलर हैड अ वेरी बैड इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दिस, एंड बिकॉज ही वाज ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्ग बिलीफ दैट जर्मनी वाज गोइंग टू विन द वॉर, एंड दैट्स व्हाट एवरीबडी वाज टोल्ड, एंड ऑल ऑफ अ सडन जर्मनी सरेंडर्ड. द वॉर एंडेड. हिटलर वाज impacted psychologically quite strong, and 1 year he was just like wandering around doing nothing. फिर से he was back to streets doing paintings, etc. In 1919 Hitler went to one of the meetings of a German Workers' Party, Deutsche Arbeiterei Party, or DAP, which later standardly became Nazi Party. So you have to remember, Hitler was not the founder of the Nazi Party. He became the leader of the Nazi Party. The party already was there in 1919. तब तक party established हो चुका था. In the year 1923, Adolf Hitler and Nazi Party together, they attempted to overthrow the Bavarian government, which is famously called the Munich Beer Hall Putsch, Munich Beer Hall Revolt. Hitler was arrested. He was jailed for seditious activities against the Bavarian government. So between 23 to 25, Hitler remained imprisoned. I mean, actually, he was to be jailed for 5 years, from 1923 to 1928, but 2 साल में छूट गए थे. It was in prison that Hitler wrote a famous book, Mein Kampf, My Struggles. ये book इतना popular हो गया था. It basically, you can say, in one way, is actually the Bible of the Nazi Germany, of the Nazi state. It was published in 2 volumes in 1925-26, and by 1933, Mein Kampf had almost 1 million copies sold. 1925, Hitler established a small, you could say, private army type of thing as part of member of the German Nazi Party. इस आर्मी को कहते हैं शुरू में we used to call it SA. Later this was known as SS, Schutzstaffel, or Protection Squad, and Schutzstaffel became very important private army. It worked with the German police of those days. And between 1925 to 1930, Hitler started rebuilding the Nazi party. He used to do these great speeches and meetings in beer halls and talk to people particularly about the negativities of Treaty of Versailles and how Treaty of Versailles is a cheat or a cheating or an unwanted punishment on Germany. In 1932, Hitler attempted his first electoral attempt. He tried to fight for German presidency, but he was defeated by Paul von Hindenburg, a very popular German leader of that period. So 32 mein first election attempt, Hitler failed. But by January 1933, his Nazi party had become one of the most important political parties to come to power. In fact, in his book, Mein Kampf itself, Hitler had clearly clarified what he intends to do with Germany and what's his idea of Germany. January 1933, Hitler's party was the most powerful party, so naturally, March 1933, when they were invited to form the government. On the 23rd of March 1933, a German parliament building was burned. There was a fire accident, and we later know now that the fire accident was actually German Nazi party only did this, but they blamed communists for this. German parliament में हिटलर ने ये convince कर दिया parliament को that Germany is under attack internally by the communists and that he needs to rectify the German nation and correct the Reichstag and correct the parliament and throw communists out. And that's how he got past a special emergency provisions under Article 42 of the Weimar Constitution. We call this the Enabling Act. Shuru mein Enabling Act gave him dictatorial powers. I mean, the intention was only for 5 years, but the act continued to be remaining for the entire period. I mean, this Enabling Act of the March 23rd, 1933 eventually converted Hitler into an absolute dictator of Germany. See, by 1933, Hitler was very popular. Everybody in the world knew Hitler. By 1934, Hitler eliminated all the leadership of his own party who could be a potential challenge to him. And between 30th of June to 2nd of July, they did something called the Night of the Long Knives, where all the leaders, all the opposition in Germany, as well as anybody who could challenge Hitler's authority, were murdered, were killed. And Hitler declared himself the Führer, the leader of Germany. So he was not going to be the chancellor. Chancellor is prime minister, president is head of the state. Instead, he created a new office called the Führer's office, which is above these two. Hitler's greatest popularity, the peak of his popularity, was the Summer Olympics of the 1936. Germany hosted 1936 Olympics, which obviously Hitler used it as a propaganda platform for his Nazi party, his party, his ideology, his propaganda. Everything was done in the summer 1936. Nazi party promoted a completely new, strong, united Germany. And ek tarike se by this time also Jews and Gypsies, Romanians were being persecuted. They were being eliminated, were given the status of a second classes and were thrown out of Germany, were put in jails, etc. But this was all covered up with media propaganda of the popularity of the German Olympics. In 1938, Hitler met the leaders of Britain and France and Italy at a Munich conference, where he demanded a territory called the Sudetenland. Sudetenland was previously German territory, which had been given away to a newly created country called Czechoslovakia. But because the world did not want one more war, Britain and France agreed for Hitler to take away Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, under the agreement that Hitler will not attack Czechoslovakia. And Hitler agreed under the Munich Agreement 1938. But Hitler was one of those guys who had very little respect for law, very little respect for contracts, very little respect for agreements. 1938 March, Hitler's troops moved to Austria. and they crossed the Austro-German border, and he broke the first rule of the Treaty of Versailles, that Austria and Germany must not unite together. Hitler entered Austrian capital. The people of Austria welcomed him. They loved him. He was popular in Vienna. And January 1939, he gave the famous speech in German parliament where he clearly said that his only sole aim is elimination of Jews from European land. And Europe celebrated this. So please understand, Hitler was very clear on exactly what he wanted to do. He knew that if he wants to get this done, first he needs to make sure he has enough support. That's why in August 1939, Hitler's foreign minister Ribbentrop and Soviet foreign minister Molotov signed the German-Soviet Pact, also called the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. Under this agreement, Soviet Union and Germany, Nazi Germany, agreed that for 10 years they will not fight against each other. At the same time, both of them will occupy Poland and divide Poland across themselves. After making sure that his German-Russian border is safe, Hitler attacked Poland on the 1st of September 1939. Technically, he started the World War II. Once Hitler attacked Poland, Britain and France came to an understanding that Hitler is no longer going to stop. And he also started by 1940 January, he started a euthanasia program where mentally disabled people, physically disabled people were being completely killed in a systematic mass murder format. And please understand, Hitler was not doing any of this in secret. In 1941, Adolf Hitler, his Gestapo or his secret police in charge, Reinhard Heydrich, and his Schutzstaffel, or private armies in charge, Heinrich Himmler, they all authorized complete annihilation of Jews from Europe. Initially, please understand, they wanted to only throw Jews out of Europe. But the problem was no other country in the world was ready to accept Jews. So Hitler was occupying new countries, Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Southern Europe, he got more and more Jews under his control. And Hitler was at his peak. He occupied France, except Britain. Entire Europe was under his control, from the borders of Soviet Union to the Atlantic coast. On the 22nd of June 1941, Adolf Hitler invaded Soviet Union. He broke the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and he launched Operation Barbarossa. Under the Operation Barbarossa, he invaded Soviet Union, which obviously was a blunder. And at the same time, Hitler's ally, one of the members of the Rome-Berlin-Tokyo Axis, which is a friendship treaty between Italy, Japan and Hitler, or Nazi Germany, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941. Nazi Germany and its ally Italy together declared war on the United States, and the United States retaliated back. In 1942, Czechoslovakia, Eastern Europe, the German-controlled Eastern Europe, in all these places, SS, Hitler's private army, began killing people in mass murders. In fact, concentration camps were established, and the German forces started killing people initially by bullets, but eventually they were killed by using gas called Zyklon B. Hitler had become completely out of control. Soviet Union, America, and Great Britain eventually came down to an agreement that they will have to attack Hitler together. And on the 6th of June 1944, they launched what commonly called the D-Day landing or Doomsday landing. Allied troops, which is American, Russian or Soviet Union, and British troops landed on the Normandy beach in France. They attacked Hitler and Hitler's Germany. So the attack was tremendously successful. Hitler survived an assassination attempt in 1944 as well by one of his own ministers, On July 20th, 1944, Hitler survived an assassination attempt by some of the military and civilian officials of Germany. They did not want Hitler anymore. They were done with Hitler. On the 30th of April 1945, Hitler committed suicide. And eventually in 1945, an international military tribunal was established after the end of World War, where while Hitler was dead, his number two, Hermann Göring, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, and Hitler's inner circle, or what we call inner circle, or Hitler's cabinet, was eventually trialed in military tribunals. The idea was not to repeat the mistake of Treaty of Versailles, and instead Nazi Germany and Nazi Germany's government was put on trial. If you see the entire timeline, Hitler from 1920 was pretty clear, pretty honest on what he wanted to do. He was honestly, it was the world which ignored Hitler, which permitted Hitler to come to power, which permitted Hitler to do all sorts of criminal activities which he wanted to, and which he successfully did.
Every man
So I always say, galati hamari thi. We ignored Hitler. We ignored the evil which was coming. This is what eventually later Hannah Arendt, a political philosopher, famously called the banality of evil. Evil actually gets its encouragement for doing its evility when the victim actually ignores.
And when they reach Berlin, it's a
People,
city in rubble, it's a city in flames,
masses,
it's a city
all
in
people
chaos, it's a
supported
city in
Hitler.
which
Everybody
squads
knew
of
what Hitler was
marauding
doing.
loyal Nazis
Everybody
are going around
hated Germany.
hanging
Hitler was
people for not
very
taking
good at
part in the
propaganda,
resistance to the
particularly
city.
just because of his
It's a city
propaganda
in which
minister,
you've got some Nazis committing
Joseph Goebbels.
suicide.
With the death
It
of
is
Hitler,
the most
Nazi Germany
benighted,
itself
appalling
ended,
place you can imagine.
Nazi ideology itself
This
ended,
is a war brought
banality
about
of
by
evil
Hitler.
became
And this
a
is
reality
war
as a practical
that
fact,
Hitler has fought for too
but the
long,
fact
and he's
still
fighting
remains
to
and the question
death.
still
And he's
remains.
fighting it to the death.
Why
of the
was Hitler
people
even encouraged?
who he supposedly loves.
And
he no
many of the
longer loves them
companies
by the
established
end of the
during
war.
Hitler's
And he
Nazi
says that
German
basically
economy
the German people
still
don't
survive,
deserve him,
like Hugo
the German
Boss,
people don't deserve Germany, and everybody
Tyson
should
Krupp,
fight to the death because
Bayer
basically,
Chemicals,
they don't deserve
Siemens
to be alive because they failed
was a company
him.
which was
Classic
supplying
narcissistic
the
thinking.
punching
The
cards
world
for
is for him,
all the
and
concentration
he's not there
camps
for the world.
where millions and millions were killed. Holocaust karne mein Siemens played a big role. IBM machines provided the entire database or the servers which were needed
Adolf
for maintaining
Hitler
this
is
entire
dead.
thing. And the beauty of Hitler's criminal activities was that everything was documented. It remains to see in world history that how could somebody like Hitler be permitted to come
A
to power.
cowardly ending for the man who led
And Hitler
Germany
came
into
through
the Second
democracy.
World War.
Please
He
understand.
shoots himself in
That
the
is why
head,
probably
28
Plato
feet
was
below
true
the
when
streets
he
of
said
Berlin.
that democracy can be the worst form of government. That's a short video, short discussion about Hitler and his timeline and his group. There is a lot to
Hitler's
think
last
about it.
days in
We'll be
the
coming back
Führer
with
bunker
part 2
under
of
the
Hitler's
Reich
life,
Chancellor in
Nazi
central
ideology,
Berlin.
Nazi state and the
That kind of
activities Nazi
terrible
state did.
end of
Till
a
then,
Shakespearean
subscribe in the link
tragedy.
down below.
As the
Subscribe to this YouTube channel.
thunder of
I'll see you in the
Russian
next
artillery
video.
all around
Bye
them.
bye.
And they're deep